In Vows, episode 22 of season 12 of Chicago PD, Reid's predicament reached a breaking point. Voight was forced into action in the conclusion when the deputy chief of the Chicago Police Department dismissed Burgess and Torres during the preceding hour and essentially disbanded the intelligence unit. Voight went back to his previous methods and planned Reid's murder. As a result, intelligence was reunited and Burgess and Torres were given back their jobs. The marriage of Burgess and Ruzek, finally, marked the conclusion of the finale. Fans will now have to wait until season 13 to find out what happens to the characters. 7. What will happen with Voight and Chapman following Reid's murder? Voight hasn't prioritized romance, so his love life has been practically non-existent for the majority of Chicago PD's existence. That is, until Assistant State Attorney Chapman came along. After the events of the season 12 finale, fans are left wondering what the One Chicago universe has in store for them in season 13, as it appears that even the romantic relationship between Voight and Chapman is going nowhere. Earlier in the season, Chapman told Voight she had feelings for him. Voight was thrown off by the confession and largely ignored that it ever happened. He hadn't thought of it, and it only added to the complexity of his life. However, in the Chicago PD season 12 finale, Voight might have ruined his chances of ever being with Chapman. Chapman made a concerted effort to pull Voight back from the brink and keep him from going back to his old ways of handling his Reid predicament. Regretfully, nobody could stop him for her. 6. Will Voight be held accountable for his role in Reid's murder? Although Voight has had numerous near misses in the past, he has rarely been apprehended and imprisoned for his crimes in the One Chicago universe. However, that might change in season 13. Although it may be unlikely that Voight will be arrested, Chapman is aware of Reid's murder and others are likely wary of the sergeant's apparent convenience in having him dead. 5. After Voight had Reid killed, would his team begin to question him? Some, if not all, of the other intelligence unit members are aware that Voight orchestrated Reid's death, even though he didn't explicitly inform them in Chicago PD Season 12, Episode 22. Burgess, Ruzek, and Atwater have worked with Voight long enough to recognize when something is amiss. Although they appeared to ignore suspicions that Voight was involved in Reid's murder in Vows, maybe that will change in Season 13. It will be impossible for some characters to ignore, particularly the more recent ones, which will probably lead to some tension in intelligence. 4. Who will be the CPD's next deputy chief? Now that Reid is gone, Chicago PD Season 13 needs a replacement. Hopefully, whoever takes over as deputy chief of the Chicago Police Department won't cause as much trouble for the intelligence unit as Reid did. Or, and this is a scary possibility, they might be far worse than the character from Chicago Police Department Season 12 played by Sean Hatosi. However, it would be monotonous for Reid's replacement to be the next antagonist on the One Chicago television series. Therefore, Voight and company may have an ally or a non-factor in the next deputy chief. It would be interesting if a well-known, amiable character took Reid's place as the deputy chief in Chicago Police Department Season 13. After all, the Chicago Police Department could use some assistance for the intelligence unit. 3. Will Season 13 see the return of any former Chicago Police Department characters? The possibility of character returns in Season 13 is still open in the wake of the events of the Chicago Police Department's Season 12 finale. However, the cancellation of FBI International makes the return of one former member of the intelligence unit even more likely. The FBI spin-off starred Jesse Lee Soffer, who played Halstead in the first 10 seasons of the NBC police procedural series. Now that it's over, the actor appears to have room in his schedule to return for Season 13 of Chicago PD. 2. After Reid, who will be the next adversary of the intelligence unit? It's time for the NBC police procedural series to move on to a new antagonist after Reid, who was a fantastic antagonist in Season 12 of Chicago PD, died. Season 13 will contain smaller villains who are limited to Case of the Week storylines. However, it should also feature a big bad. 1. What does the future hold for Burgess and Ruzek after getting married? After 12 seasons of ups and downs, Burgess and Ruzek's lives on Chicago Police Department should be easier now that they're married, right? Most likely not. Conflict and drama always seem to find their way into Burgess and Ruzek's relationship, despite their intense love for one another. But since they will be married in the Season 12 finale, the writers will need to come up with a unique way to make the couple's upcoming storyline more tense. Or perhaps I'm mistaken and Burgess and Ruzek will continue to be in their honeymoon period in Season 13 of Chicago Police.